Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's Fulton, Elliot, Chelsea Town Hall. Shh. Thanks. I am Jessica Chait, Chair of Manhattan Community Board 4, and I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. I want to start by noting translation services. If you or anyone you know needs translation, please come up here. We have Spanish, Russian, Cantonese, and Mandarin. If you or someone you know needs translation. I want to thank PS33 for opening up their space and PSA4 for being here tonight. I want to thank all of the concerned residents of NYCHA and the neighborhood who are here, and to our elected officials and tenant leaders, Miguel Acevedo and Renee Kitt, who are joining us for the program. I want to also acknowledge Alika Samuel, who is here from HUD, a guest this evening. And a special thanks to CB4 members who volunteered to help out this evening, and to everyone who registered, submitted questions, and who are joining us as part of the program, both here in person and online. Tonight's town hall came out of a letter passed by CB4, which was the result of intense outpouring we have had from the public at our meetings about the proposed redevelopment project and a desire to be heard by and to hear directly from our elected officials. So to clarify about what you can expect from tonight. To start, what this is not. Tonight will not be an introduction of the program, of the project, or an overview of the project. You should not expect that specific details about when construction might begin, how long it will take, or anything relevant to the specific details of the project. Instead, we encourage you to visit the website, CB4's website, and FultonElliotChelsea.com, or any of the other numerous sources online. The links to these websites are available on the agenda that was passed out earlier today. Shh. If you are a NYCHA resident and have questions, we encourage you to speak to your tenant association leader and HOU representatives. Additionally, there will be no vote this evening. I want to be clear, this is not a vote. This is simply an opportunity to hear from and to hear back from our electeds. What tonight is, tonight will be an opportunity to hear briefly from the tenant leaders of the Fulton and Elliot Chelsea, and from the electeds present on a series of questions and topics for which we have sought clarity, and to share questions from the public. First, a bit of housekeeping. We have a hard stop this evening at 8 p.m. Any disruptions will keep us from the business at hand. Additionally, restrooms are outside to your right. We have received questions submitted in advance, about 50, and we will be taking additional written questions which will be collected by volunteers standing along the walls. We also have extra note cards if needed. You can submit your questions throughout the evening. Please note your name if you are comfortable doing so. I hear your concerns about having the public speak. And if you'd like, I can stop and listen to you. But it means that we're not going to hear from our electeds. Before we move on, I want to remind everyone about the role of Community Board 4. The Community Board is made up of volunteers.
Shh. Guys, you have to be quiet for a second. Let us continue to talk, and we'll get to the program, and your questions are going to get answered. That's the beginning. Not perfect. Okay?
Thank you, Joe. I want to remind everyone about the role of the Community Board and Community Board 4 in particular. The Community Board is made up of volunteers who live and work in the community. We are advisory, meaning our voice is to inform elected officials and government agencies. Even when we take a vote, though we are not doing that here this evening, it is not binding. It is simply to inform and advise. Now, beginning in October 2019, representatives from CB4 participated in the Fulton, Elliot, Chelsea NYCHA working group. Together with NYCHA residents, local elected officials, and members of the wider Chelsea community, the group met for 15 months. There is a very detailed report that summarizes all of the conditions that the working group set forth, but a high level, and it recommended rehabilitation, meaning no demolition, pact conversion, which means the introduction of a private company and the transition from Section 9 to Section 8, and it recommended mixed income residential infill between 22 and 24 stories, which would have produced 696 new mixed income units. That was agreed to by the working group in February 2021. Over the last 2 years, many of our land use and housing committee and full board meetings have had this topic on their agenda, as we have continued to seek more information on the proposed project. Now, to bring us back to tonight's town hall, I want to thank Councilmember Eric Botcher and Assemblymember Tony Simone for joining us here this evening, even as their other colleagues are not here. So we are clear, we invited all of our elected officials, State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel, Borough President Mark Levine, and Representative Jerry Nadler to join as well. We knew it would be unlikely that Representative Nadler would be unable to attend, and Rob Gottheim, Chief of Staff, is here to join us here in the front. Senator Hoylman was confirmed until 5 weeks ago when we were informed that he would need to be out of town. He asked for an option to join remotely. We declined to provide that. Joining us from his team today is Jonah Rose and his Chief of Staff, Sam Vasquez Martinez. Earlier this week, we were informed that the Borough President Levine would not attend, instead sending his Director of Land Use and Planning, Madeline McCrory, who also joins us. On behalf of my board colleagues, and I'm sure many of you, we are deeply disappointed to not have our full slate of local elected officials. And in all honesty, we considered canceling this event. We decided to push forward because we thought it was important for all of us to gather and for us to get a temperature, take the temperature, and hear from all of you. Councilmember Botcher and Assemblymember Simone are here, and we are grateful to both of you for joining us. Shifting gears, I'm pleased to introduce folks involved in this evening's event. Our District Manager, Jesse Bodine, Maria Ortiz, our Co-Chair of Housing, Health, and Human Services, Joe Restuccia, fellow Co-Chair of Housing, Health, and Human Services, and Greg Morris, Chair of Chelsea Land Use, who I don't see but is among us. The agenda for this evening will be, first, setting some ground rules and getting to know who's in the room. Second, a brief discussion with tenant leaders so you can all get a sense of their perspectives and concerns, followed by a discussion with our elected officials and Q&A. I'm now going to turn it over to Maria Ortiz, Co-Chair of Housing, Health, and Human Services, to lay the ground rules. Everyone who's just come in, please come on in and get seated. There are seats.
Come on in, take a seat.
You are welcome to come up. We'd appreciate if you did. There are seats all along the front here, in the middle, and along on the side as well.
Okay. Can I announce that? We were just informed, the Carpenters Union folks, you would get up if tenants need seats. Thank you for that. There are some tenants standing in the back. Excuse me. Excuse me. We have some ushers, Travis Rogers, Kevin Collins. You are out there. If you are not busy right now, can you come in and assist with the audience? If there are...
People in the back, please come to the front. There's lots of seats over here. Lots of seats. Come on down.
Kevin Collins, Travis Rogers, please come and assist with the audience. If there are several disruptions, we will need your assistance. Thank you. All right, to ensure a respectful, constructive, and inclusive conversation, we ask all participants, meaning the audience and featured guests as well, to follow these 3 ground rules throughout the meeting. Number 1 is be respectful. Number 2, remember our shared commitment. Number 3 is going to be stick to the topic. Number 1, we are here to listen to one another. Please speak to others as you would want to be spoken to. That includes elected officials, neighbors, and moderators. Disagreements are expected. But personal attacks, name-calling, hostile language, or interruptions will not be tolerated. Everyone deserves the opportunity to be heard without disruption. Number 2, remember our shared commitment. Everyone here cares deeply about the future of Chelsea and the well-being of our neighbors. Although we may have different views, we share a common goal, solutions that can work for all of us. If we can't hear each other, we can't move forward together. Number 3, stick to the topic. This is a town hall and focus on the future of Fulton and Elliot, Chelsea, NYCHA campuses, including housing, environmental, and community impacts. We request that comments and questions remain relevant to the subject at hand. CB4 is hosting this to raise concerns, ask questions, and hear directly from the decision makers. Please remember, this is only one step in a longer process of accountability and advocacy. So as a reminder, be respectful, remember our shared commitment, and stick to the topic. For the next section, I recommend Tony and Eric that you guys, Eric Botcher, Tony Simone, I would encourage you to look at the audience for this part. I'm going to be asking the audience questions to take a temperature of the room. Raise your hand if. Okay? So we want to take a moment and just understand who's here in the room. These questions are meant to reflect the variety of experiences, concerns, and hopes people have for their homes and their community. Please raise your hand if you live in NYCHA. Okay. Please raise your hand if you live in Fulton houses. Okay. Please raise your hand if you live at Elliot, Chelsea. Okay. If you lived at Fulton or Elliot, Chelsea for more than 20 years, please raise your hand. Wow. Okay. All right. We need to keep that energy all night. All right. If you've lived in these developments, excuse me. If you have lived in these developments but have moved, raise your hand. Okay. If you don't live in NYCHA but live in the surrounding neighborhood, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay. If you don't live in the neighborhood, but you're here because you care about housing justice or the future of public housing, raise your hand. Okay. If you were a member of the Fulton Elliot Chelsea Houses Working Group that met in 2018 to 2020, raise your hand. Okay, that's a good number here. Okay. If this is your first time attending a public meeting about this project, wow. Okay. If you've attended more than one public meeting, raise your hand. Can I raise my hand for that? Even internal meetings. Okay. If you're a member of CB4, raise your hand. All right. Was that CB4 member? Okay. If you live in NYCHA and have one or more unresolved maintenance issues, raise your hand. If you've helped a neighbor or a family member with a NYCHA issue, raise your hand. Okay. I should raise my hand for that too. If you're concerned about what this project might mean for you or your community, raise your hand. All right. Good. All right. If you're excited about what this project might mean for you or your community, raise your hand. Okay. What about if you want some change, but you're not sure yet what kind of change? Raise your hand. All right. What about if you want change and agree with the plan as proposed? Please raise your hand. Okay. What if, have any of you participated in the Related Essence tenant engagement meetings? Okay. And what if you want change, but you don't agree with the plan as proposed? Okay. What about if you're here because you want to better understand all sides of the issue? Okay. Last question. If you have questions that still have not been answered throughout this process, raise your hand. Okay. And if you are a member of the Carpenters Union, raise your hand. All right. Everyone, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for participating. Next, my co-chair of, I'm sorry? Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, thank you, Maria, and thank you all for participating in that. It's very helpful to know, and we very much appreciate the diversity of perspectives and backgrounds that are here this evening. Just two quick words that I want to mention. One is with regards to the Carpenters Union, you're welcome to be here. We want to acknowledge that we look forward to your participation in whatever project may be going forward. That is not what's really going to be discussed this evening, and so you're welcome to stay, but you are also, there will be plenty of opportunities. We look forward to a Carpenters Union project. Additionally, I want to note that we cannot control, as you can well tell, all elements of this event, and we have not circulated, other than the agenda from CB4, any materials of our own. We understand other materials are being circulated. We cannot control everything, but we do not endorse those materials, having not seen them beforehand. We're now going to move into the discussion with our tenant leaders. I'm hopeful that Renee Kitt has arrived. Well, we can't move on to the elected, so if we want to start with Miguel and then move in. We're not doing that. Yeah. Okay, we're going to make a pivot because unfortunately the tenant leader of Elliot Chelsea is not yet here. So we will, you'll give me 1 second. We are collecting cards, so if you have questions, please seek out the people walking up the aisles. Shanice here, Travis there, Kevin back there. Just raise your hand if you have a card with a question, and they will collect them. So we are moving into our discussion with the electeds, which is, I know, what many of you are here for. And we are joined, sorry, Rob. We are here tonight to discuss the proposed Fulton Elliot Houses redevelopment, a significant undertaking by the New York City Housing Authority and Housing Preservation Development and the PAC partners, Essence Development and the related companies. This project, which involves the demolition and replacement of all existing NYCHA buildings on 2 campuses, along with the construction of new mixed-income housing, community facilities, and commercial space, has generated significant discussion and concern with the Chelsea community. Our goal tonight is to foster an inclusive, insightful dialogue with our elected officials, drawing on the detailed concerns raised by Manhattan Community Board 4 residents and other stakeholders to better understand the project's implications and how key community priorities will be addressed. The questions I will be asking are reflections of questions submitted prior to this evening's event via our registration page and based on the numerous community board meetings we have held over the last 2 years. Questions generating during the event will be addressed by Greg Morris in just a bit. So to start, do you guys have mics? Okay. So we're joined here by Assemblymember Simone, Councilmember Eric Botcher, and Chief of Staff to Jerry Nadler, Robert Gottheim. And I'm going to allow the council member and the assemblymen to do a brief opening statement, but first we'll offer some framing. In June 2023, you offered public endorsement of the proposed project that I referred to a few minutes ago. Leading up to that period, there had been resident engagement, but not engagement with the broader community or consultation with the working group. Starting in June 2023 and until today, MCB4 and the broader community have raised serious concerns about transparency, the abandonment of the Chelsea NYCHA Working Group's recommendations, and the integrity of the process. Please explain your current position on the development, and we'll ask you keep it brief so we can then engage in a back and forth dialogue. Councilmember.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jessica. Hi, everyone. So here's what I would like to start by saying. Whichever side of this issue you fall on here today, everyone who is here today is here because you care about this community, and that's the conversation we're having tonight. So, look, for decades, elected officials have been coming and going and giving great speeches about the conditions at NYCHA. I've heard some great speeches about NYCHA. I've been to some great rallies, incredible rallies, to save NYCHA, to call on the federal government to give the money, to call on NYCHA to stop being the biggest slumlord in all of New York City. I've been to them in New York City. I've been to them in Albany. The politicians make the speech. They go home to their nice apartments, and the residents have to go back to their NYCHA apartments, and nothing changes. I'm not going to be that council member. I'm not going to be that council member. So we have in front of us a plan. We have a plan. Now, I have some criticisms of that plan that I want to get into tonight. I have some changes that I want to see made to that plan. But we can't go back to ground zero. We have to improve the plan that we have on the table to give our neighbors in NYCHA the homes that they deserve. It is inexcusable that across the street from Hudson Yards, across the street from Google, we have people living in conditions that would not be acceptable from any private landlord. Landlords have gone to jail for doing what NYCHA has done. So we are not going to walk away from the tenants. We as a community are going to work to get together and come up with a plan to save NYCHA and to give folks the best housing in New York City.
Thank you, Eric. I just want to echo what the council member said. Thank you for your involvement. No matter what side you're on this issue, we know how deeply you care about your community. So I thank you all for being here. You'll probably get better answers if you let us speak. But if you want us to stop speaking, I can just pause.
Can you please, hey guys, you may not agree with what he has to say. Let him say it, and we're going to get to the questions. It's the most important part of tonight. So let's take it easy. Go ahead, Assembly Member.
I understand the anxiety. I understand the excitement. I understand the fear. No one likes change. Change is hard. The project is one of the most significant Chelsea has faced in recent memory. We've had years of meetings, input, and work have brought us to this point. The redevelopment of the campuses will bring major change to everyone who lives there. We get that. The vision of brand new apartments for every NYCHA resident is a massive undertaking with a long road ahead. And I know once this is done, the majority of you will say, thank you for our new homes. I know many in this room have different opinions, what I love about New York. As we move close to the project start date, and I fully endorse this project, you're going to hear a lot of information. You're going to hear a lot of information. Please. You're going to hear a lot of information, and there are a lot of resources you can go to for that information. The offices that have opened up, an independent nonprofit HOU, Housing Opportunities Unlimited, are there to meet with you to discuss each of your specific issues about moving and any questions you have. If they're not satisfactory to you, please call my office. Please email our office. We want to make sure that this process protects all the tenants. And by all the tenants, I mean every single tenant. My team and I attended almost every meeting. When I was in Albany, we had our great staff at every single meeting, over 35 meetings with many, many NYCHA tenants. And I want to just clarify to say we're advocating for you. So I want to remind you, if HOU and everyone involved in this process, you should always reach out to us and all the elected officials on this. Tonight is about an opportunity for me to hear directly from all of you, your questions, and I want to thank CB4 and their leadership for conducting this town hall tonight and for all they've been working on for months, listening from every tenant in the district. So I want to thank them. I look forward to your questions. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being amazing New Yorkers.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start now with the questions that we've received online. The final impact statement was released only 10 days ago, and a ULURP presumably still ahead, where Eric, you in particular will play a significant role in representing and advancing the needs of this community. Explain how you felt comfortable endorsing this project knowing the public process had not yet been completed, and what can we expect from you in terms of continued due diligence?
So there will be a ULURP that will happen probably next year. We need to get to that ULURP, but I support the concept of building new buildings. And let me tell you about a couple examples of where this has happened before. It's happened all over the country. I was over in April. I went over to Hoboken to visit a counterpart of mine, a city council member in Hoboken, where they are rebuilding their public housing from scratch. So I went over there and we met with their housing authority, and what they're doing is they're building a new building in a parking lot. They'll move the residents from 3 buildings into that new building. They will then demolish and replace those 3 older buildings and build new buildings. And at the end of that process, everyone will have new apartments that are fully ADA accessible, that have modern conveniences and security desks.
Sorry, Councilmember, I want to go back to the question, which is, what's your continued due diligence to ensure that as we proceed to ULURP, that this project delivers on the needs and the wants of the tenants in the room? What's your due diligence?
So I want you all to know that my colleagues and I, along with all of our staff and support services and Attorney General Letitia James, who supports this project, and her tenant protection unit. We are meeting regularly with both NYCHA and the project partners because as far as I'm concerned, trust has nothing to do with this process. It requires extreme oversight to ensure that our priorities are met. Number one priority, that the tenants are protected. That the tenants are protected. And let me just give you...
We will get to many more of these questions, and I hear some of them, but if he can't continue, we can't get to them. So please.
And let me just give you one example of a top priority that we are working with the Attorney General's office and to ensure is met. That is the relocation agreements and right to return agreements. Every year across NYCHA's portfolio, thousands of residents are temporarily moved out of their homes. Many of them are moved into totally different developments for any number of reasons, lead, anything. Some of them are moved for long periods of time. The agreements that NYCHA is using here for the relocation are the boilerplate standard agreements that are approved by HUD, the federal oversight agencies. But we are going to make them go further, above and beyond, because every resident, anyone who apartment for even one day deserves and will get full protections.
Thank you, Eric. We're going to move on to another question we've received over the last 2 years about the dynamic with an RFP. Many of you will know an RFP was initially released following the working group's recommendations that included renovation. As we know, Essence was selected, and now we're facing a demolition proposal. My question to the Assembly member is there any scenario, why do you think a new RFP was not required? And is there any scenario in which you would have thought a new RFP should have been issued?
So there was an RFP, there was a long process, they did an assessment, and the conclusion was we need to go back to the tenants to see what they wanted. Basically, we came to the conclusion after the survey of tenants, what they wanted, and rehabilitation would actually be more disruptive. Residents would have to move out of their home and then move back again. In this scenario, 94% of tenants will not have to move until their new home is ready. So we agreed to that process.
Is there any scenario in which you would have thought a new RFP was necessary?
I mean, there was an RFP.
Well, the project changed substantially, and we don't know that Essence Related is necessarily the best to deliver on that project, seeing as they didn't engage in a competitive process.
Look, I'll be direct. I don't agree with everything that happened in the process. In the end, we didn't want to wait any longer. Washington is not coming to save us. No offense to our great Congressman Jerry Nadler, but the majority, they're trying to cut money for NYCHA. Every year in the state budget, we fight to get hundreds of millions of dollars to repair NYCHA, and it's a Band-Aid. This will provide new homes for every NYCHA resident. In hindsight, sure, we could have opened up to new RFP, but it would have delayed the process. But like they say, nothing in life is perfect. But sometimes you not get what you love, but you get what you need, and people are going to get new homes.
Okay.
Thank you for your passion.
All right. We're going... Eric, you spoke about this briefly, but can you speak to the recognizing both of you support the proposed project, what concerns do you have about the proposed project, and what specific actions will you and your office be taking to help resolve them?
So I have some here are some of my top priorities with respect to making changes to this project. One issue that I have with it is that the NYCHA tenants are in different buildings than the mixed income buildings. In Hoboken, where they are rebuilding their public housing, everyone's together. Everyone's together. So I believe that it should be more integrated throughout. Another concern that I have is with the height and the massing of the buildings. The current proposal has the taller buildings towards 9th Avenue. They've got it the wrong way around. 10th Avenue is where any buildings that are taller should be over towards 10th, and they should step down towards 9th Avenue. Another criticism I have of this plan is that currently, if there is excess income from the project, it'll go to NYCHA. That money should stay here in Chelsea. That money should stay here in Chelsea. It should stay on these campuses. Also, currently, the proposal, wow. Much better. Currently, the proposal is that for the mixed income buildings, those will have 30% affordable housing. That is currently, they're anticipating over 1,000 units of new affordable housing. I don't think that's good enough. We need more affordable housing. We could have well over 1,000 units of new permanently affordable housing. And before we say, and that the AMIs will be decided, well, you know, the question with affordable housing is always affordable to who? So we are going to be able to prescribe the AMIs. During the Euler process, we will be able to prescribe the AMIs. But let me just say one thing about the new affordable housing. Because, you know, it could be easy to say, well, you know, the new affordable housing, that's nice, but that's not a priority. Let me tell you that in our council office, every day, we get phone calls from people in our community, in Chelsea. They don't have a rent-stabilized apartment. They don't have tenant protections, but they live in Chelsea and they have been here a long time. It could be a senior who can't go up their stairs anymore. And you know what? They ask us desperately. I'm just going to wait. They ask us desperately, where can I get affordable housing? And we have to tell them there ain't any. We have to tell them there ain't any. There is that building on 23rd and 50. That new building on 23rd and 8th had 50 apartments. 80,000 people applied for that. So we have the opportunity for well over 1,000 new units of affordable housing in Chelsea. That is an important factor and an opportunity that we should not brush away.
Thank you. Assemblymember, you have also been very supportive of the project. I imagine you have concerns as well, and if you could focus on those, what are the things briefly you would like to see addressed as part of this process over the next several months?
So it's a great question. Jessica asked the question about what issues I have with the project. No project is perfect. I agree with the council member we don't want to change the character of Chelsea. I do think the tall buildings should be further west. I do believe, and I think some of the things we discussed with Joe and the Community Board 4, we want to make sure the public school, we can add seats. We want to make sure there's more open green space. We want to fight for more affordability. I know, look, I wish we could change the way folks develop at AMI, but like Eric said, in the Euler process, we will be able to decide the AMI. We want to push them to create more affordability. You know, we're in this problem, and Eric's been a great advocate as the Congress member on building more housing. We're never going to get out of the housing crisis unless we build more housing. And I know there's a lot of passion in the room tonight, and I hear you. For decades, NYCHA has been neglected. So it's a scary proposition to move. But everyone is going to stay in the community. And other things from the question you asked me about things I don't like in the plan. We commented on the DEIS on other changes we would like to see. Increased affordability, more open green space, more community access, and facilities. I'm forgetting another few, but I will get to the next answer. But we're fighting to make the plan better. And I know in the end we will make more improvements to the plan, working together with Community Board 4. Joe had a lot of great suggestions. Jessica did in the last Community Board 4 meeting I watched on Zoom. I was in Albany, sorry I got stuck there, passing the budget. But there are a lot of improvements we want to see in this plan.
Thank you. I want to first, just housekeeping, there are a lot of people standing in the back. There are seats up front. We did have a generous offer by union members that they would consider giving up their seats, but either way, if you are, you should come in and let's find everybody a seat who's here from the community. This is a community board for Town Hall. I'll ask our volunteers to help bring those folks in and get them seats. We want to be sure that you're represented here. I'm going to move to a question we received online, specifically from Tony Ehrenstein, who asks, her question is, why do these buildings need to be demolished instead of renovated? And I'm going to modify her question a little bit and say, why do all of these buildings need to be demolished? And I'll turn it to either of you who want to take that.
Has anyone been over to 7th Avenue and 22nd Street recently and seen the new building going up on the southeast corner? And does anyone remember, for many years, there was like a set of buildings there that were just kind of like there, and people were like, what's going on in those buildings? If you go over there now, there is a new building. Those are city-owned buildings, and after many years, we were able to get the city to agree to fix those buildings. Only the city decided, instead of just fixing what's there, we are going to build a new building for you. This is on 22nd and 7th, and I invite you to go over there if you haven't been over there. So this was a long process working with those tenants who were very apprehensive about temporarily moving out of their homes, and we totally understood it. We had to work with those tenants one by one and help them get places where they could go. I personally, there was one tenant who was holding out till the end. Everyone else had moved out. They were ready to start the project. I went with the tenant and looked at apartments with her to give her the comfort that she was going to be able to come back. So that building on 22nd and 7th is now finished. The tenants are going to come back soon. And instead of having that old building just fixed up, they are going to have some of the best apartments in all of Chelsea, which is what they deserve. And in our developments, we have in addition to buildings that their useful life will have a lot longer. We have the opportunity to have lobbies with security desks, package rooms, a place for you to get your packages delivered safely, garbage chutes that fit a modern-day trash bag, elevators that fit a stretcher where you don't have to have a stretcher up and down, roof decks, landscape roof decks, a place for you to go to fresh air. We're talking about dishwashers, washing machines, things that apartment buildings have now, and we can do it. And we can do it for you because you deserve it. You deserve it. But only with full protections for every tenant, zero displacement, right to move back into your units, and like Tony said, 94% of the residents will never have to move apartment until the new buildings are ready.
Thank you, Eric. I do want to just acknowledge, the size and scale of 7th and 22nd is obviously very, very different than what we're talking about here. And I do want to also just ask, could you envision a scenario in which not all buildings are demolished, given that some do have and are reported to have good quality functioning and don't require demolition? Would you consider that?
So I throughout this, I've been open to...
We can't hear his answer, folks.
Please let him answer.
Look, I'm open to all possibilities. I think during the ULURP process, we will have the opportunity to shape this project. I've been part of dozens and dozens of ULURPs, and we will have the opportunity to determine details about this project down to the color of the brick. I'm talking about brick and stone, not glass and steel. Buildings that reflect the character of Chelsea with storefront retail. How about retail that has community-controlled retail with incubators for small businesses, for the residents? A supermarket, healthcare, nurseries. We have the opportunity as part of this to shape all these details.
Thank you. And I'm sorry to, Eric, one more question, and I'm sorry to focus on you in this moment, but we're hearing a lot about, is ULURP happening? The FEIS was just released. There are 7 options in there. The preferred option does include ULURP, but we have always known that there was an option that did not include ULURP, and now there is a 7th option related to the City of Yes that also does not require ULURP. Can you speak to, folks, I can't ask the question if you can't hear me. Can you speak about whether or not you believe this project will go through ULURP, what commitments you'll make to make sure that it goes through ULURP, and what can we expect from that process?
So there were a couple options during the tenant engagement process. One involved a non-ULURP option that would take longer with multiple phases. There was a ULURP option that involved 2 phases. They're going with the ULURP option that involves 2 phases. As of today, my absolute demand is that this project go through ULURP, and that is what they're preparing to do with certification by the end of this year or early next year.
Thank you. I want to move on. Assemblyman, we have a lot of folks in the room tonight, different backgrounds, different perspectives, clearly, but I'd like to hear from you who you believe are the primary stakeholders in deciding what happens to NYCHA residents, their homes, and NYCHA property. Who are the primary stakeholders in that process?
So the question is, who are the major stakeholders of the NYCHA process? The NYCHA residents. And we had over 35 meetings that were well attended, staff as I can when I wasn't in Albany. And in the end, there was a survey, and they voted for a rebuild. I understand that the survey makes some people upset, but but the response rate was higher than a local election. I also want to just clarify one other thing. NYCHA will still own the land. The land is leased. It's not sold. It's a 99-year lease. The buildings will remain under public control, and that's a fact.
When relying on the tenant survey from 2023, folks, when relying on the tenant survey from 2023, which you just referred to, the more recent tenant-driven... The more recent tenant-driven petition, the relevant election district results, or simply the feedback at our meetings and in the submissions for tonight's event, support for the proposed project appears split. And splits happen. Look at our national election. It's just reality. Do you continue to believe that the majority of tenants support the proposed plan, or what else informs your decision to support the plan?
I would never support a plan that I didn't believe the majority of the tenants supported. When I go to both Fulton and Elliot Chelsea houses, I meet people who support this plan, who want this plan. At the Fulton Houses Tenant Association meetings, when I go there, those are rooms full of people who are not saying, don't do this. They're saying, when is this happening? What is the holdup? At the Elliot Chelsea Tenants Association, the last one I was invited to in December, that was a room full of people who was ready for this plan. Now, there's no such thing. There is no such thing as unanimity. In New York City, we are a city of 8.5 million people with 25 million opinions. There's no such thing as unanimity, but we owe it going...
There's a seat right there, Salinas.
I think you're just blocking people, Celine.
There's a seat right there.
Celine, I think you're just blocking people. Go ahead, Jessica.
We've heard you. If this is what we're going to do, then if we're not going to be quiet, then we're going to call the event because we heard your position, but we can't hear anybody else's, and we can't hear from them. So
Okay, got it. And everybody, you have the right to have your opinion. You have the right to hold up a sign. There's no question about it, okay? You have the right. Now, don't get on top of her. Understood that. But, okay?
And Jessica, I want to add one thing. I don't want to, for a minute, I don't want anyone to think that we're devaluing the opinions of people who are against this plan. Every person's opinion is valued. Every person's opinion is valued. But going back to square one would be a disservice to 100% of the tenants.
I believe the question is based on the folks here tonight, would we change our opinion? And Look, I've been an
Sorry,
organizer.
not based on folks here tonight, just in general, recognizing that splits happen and they could go either way. How does that impact you?
In general, I was an organizer since I was young. I was a tenant organizer. I saved more people in their homes my entire career. And I would never do anything that would affect tenants' homes. We're here to give you new homes. I just want to add, in recent weeks, our office has received hundreds of emails, calls in support of the project. You can't always estimate folks who come out to a town hall who are upset as whether they're for or not a project. So it's unfair, that premise. I would never do anything if the majority of tenants told us we shouldn't do it. And I get everyone's passion. It's a very, very big, significant change in your lives. But I do think in the long run, if we were to fast forward a few years from now, when you're in new homes, you will be happy.
Okay, we're going to move. Guys, we're going to, shh. Folks. First, there are lots of people standing in the back. We encourage you to come find a seat. So come on up and we have volunteers, we'll come help find you seats. You don't need to be crowded in the back, so come on up. I want to actually move to a question. We're going to skip around a little bit here, but I want to talk about the federal funding for public housing. We have Rob Gottheim here with us representing Jerry Nadler. We know federal funding for public housing has long been eroding. Now we are processing the reality ushered in by the new federal budget and cuts to Section 8. We'd like to hear from you, Rob. In light of the proposed federal budget, how do you think this plan provides more support for the current residents of Fulton, Elliot, Chelsea? And what are your concerns with regards to the funding of public housing going forward?
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of Congressman Nadler. Thank you very much for having me.
Folks, we have not heard anything on this
I'm happy
topic
to
yet.
speak.
We received a lot of questions.
I can speak over you too, so thank you. So, in an ideal world, we would get federal government funding for Section 9 housing. We have been trying to get Section 9 housing for a very, very long time. NYCHA, we had a bill in Congress which Congressman Nadler supports, which is a bill by Nydia Velázquez, who represents Brooklyn and Queens, which would fund public housing in this country by $60 billion. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to pass that bill. We have been working on this project for many, many, many years. People who are living in Fulton and Elliot Chelsea houses have been living in substandard housing. It is not, we cannot tell those residents that we need to wait for more funding when the funding hasn't come through. No plan is perfect. This plan is not perfect. You're hearing all the elected officials up here saying we are going to make it better. We are here to listen to you tonight, to hear your concerns. But here are our concerns right now. We cannot allow the residents who live in NYCHA, who live in Fulton, who live in Elliot, Chelsea, to wait any longer. We are going to work with everybody here to make sure that they have the right to come back to their homes. But this plan is going to make the community better. We are going to make sure that we have all 2,500 units of NYCHA housing are restored, an additional 1,000 new permanent affordable housing. And as you heard the councilman say, as we go through ULURP, that's the floor, not the ceiling. So we're going to try to do much better than that. But we cannot ask the residents to wait any longer. This plan is not perfect, but it is not acceptable at all that people who live in Fulton, Elliot, Chelsea, you cannot get a gurney into that elevator. And if we don't improve that housing and make new ones, a gurney wouldn't be able to get in there. It's not ADA accessible. It is not modern housing. So we are here to make the housing better. We are going to ensure with Attorney General Tish James that they are ironclad, that people will be able to return. In terms of the funding, that was one of your questions that you asked. We have talked to HUD, and Section 8 is going to be funded in here. This is going to be able, they want this type of program. It is a program that is going to continue. I don't love privatization. If I had a magic wand, we wouldn't do it. But it is not acceptable to allow anybody to say, wait. When your bathrooms are falling apart, when your kitchens are falling apart, we cannot say wait. So we are not waiting. We're going to ensure that you get decent, good, clean housing. That means dishwashers. That means washer dryers. That means amenities. Amenities that I have, amenities that you deserve. So,
All right.
no plan is ideal.
Okay.
We have held
everyone.
many meetings.
Let's take it down.
So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to listen to you. So thank you. We're going to continue to have discussions.
I want to ask a follow-up, 2 follow-ups, folks. One for the housing advocates in the room, which when we did our hand raising, there were many. This current proposal, while it does produce the additional housing you spoke of, folks, NYCHA has stated that about 260 bedrooms will be lost to right sizing. That's a permanent loss of public housing capacity for future generations, not just those in the room. How do you think, how is this a fair trade? How does this make sense? Should we not be asking NYCHA to maintain the number of affordable bedrooms so that future generations can call NYCHA home?
So one of the elements of this plan is right sizing. So the family of 5 who's been raising their kids in a 1-bedroom apartment, they will get a 4-bedroom apartment.
But to be clear, I'm asking about future generations. We know right sizing is going to happen.
I'm going to answer your question.
Right.
The regulations say that you have to right size all the apartments properly. When all of that is done, there will not be a loss of public housing. But we have to ensure that residents get the apartments that match their household size. And that includes people I know who are doubled up in living rooms with their kids, with their grandparents, can finally get the apartment sizes that they deserve.
Sorry, but what about the 260
Can I just add something?
bedrooms we're losing? The question was, could we ask NYCHA, would you be willing to ask NYCHA that the plan increase the number of units effectively to make up for those bedrooms that we are otherwise losing, that future generations could benefit from?
So one of the elements that we are discussing with NYCHA is adding more NYCHA units to this plan. And that is a definite possibility that we are pushing for, to get more NYCHA units in addition to the new mixed income affordable.
Thank you. And I just want to note that is effectively new information for me, and I imagine for many. And so the more we can ask questions and get our answers, we can learn a lot more this evening. Thank you, Eric. Did you want to answer something?
Yeah, I just want to add that right sizing is a federal requirement. It'll happen with or without demolition. Yeah. And we will keep a close eye on every single tenant with the Attorney General's office and the Legal Aid Society to ensure that every family has the appropriate sized apartment.
Thank you. Okay, now, as mentioned, we switched the program a little bit, so I'm going to give you guys a water break of sorts. We're going to switch to the tenant leaders. Joe is going to engage with Renee Kitt and Miguel Acevedo. They're going to come up. We are going to have to limit that section to about 10 minutes so that, you can come on up, so that we can then review the questions from the public, at which point we will then engage Miguel. Miguel. We didn't do it out. No. Okay. In that case, is Greg Morris with us? Greg? Great. Hi, Greg. So why don't we pivot to you for now? Well, no, because we don't have Miguel, and we didn't do one without the other, so that's where we are. So we'll get you a mic, and we'll ask you to answer the questions that we've received on some of the note cards. Wait, sorry, I'm sorry, Eric. Eric, sorry. We're going to need you to come back up. I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, we want you back. Sorry. I'm sorry. Pivoting here. Greg has received and collected questions. Joe says we're back. Okay. Actually, you have a break. Sorry. Miguel is back, so we're going to bring up the tenant leaders. We're going to go back. We're going to revert to the formerly scheduled program. Renee, come on up. Joe's going to come on up. We thank everyone for their patience and are delighted to have Miguel Acevedo and Renee Kitt representing their tenants. And I know, I just want to really thank you for your leadership and all that you do to look out for your residents and for everyone here and for joining us this evening.
Everybody, I'm Joe Restuccia. I'm the co-chair of Housing, Health, and Human Services of Community Board 4. And we're joined by Renee Kitt, president of Elliot Chelsea Houses, and Miguel Acevedo, president of Fulton Houses. And let's just note that there is not a more thankless job than being president of a NYCHA tenant association, all right? And they're doing their best. The two tenant associations are on the opposite ends of the polls here of what they want to do and want to proceed on. I'm going to ask some questions and really get you to focus. First, Miguel, I'm going to ask you just for 1 minute, why do you support the current plan, which is full demolition today? Just 1 minute, and I'll cut you off if you go too far.
I'm going to make it less than 1 minute,
Miguel,
30 seconds.
Miguel, close.
I'm going to make it short and sweet. Those buildings, if they don't be taken down now, they're going to be condemned, and we're going to be moved.
Let him speak. Let him speak.
It's all right. I can speak over them.
No, but Miguel, I'll moderate and say, let you speak.
So, Joe, to answer to your question, those buildings are in terrible shape. We literally had 2 elevator pits that collapsed, literally collapsed. If you go into the basement of these buildings, you'll see that our foundation is falling apart. This is not something I'm making it up. And if anybody from the outside doesn't think it's true, we got vacant units where you can stay at Fulton Houses and you can see how we're living. In the winter, many of the buildings have no hot water. Not for days, for weeks, sometimes months. We have a tenant who's here tonight, who her apartment is rat infested, and NYCHA has done nothing. Wait, the minute.
No, I know, but I'm trying to get a question. So Miguel, as a follow-up, okay. As a follow-up, please, guys. In NYCHA's own reports, they have stated that the buildings in Elliot, Chelsea, and Fulton are structurally sound. They put that in writing. So therefore, my question for please, guys.
As you said, Joe, NYCHA's assessment. If anybody in here tells you they trust anything NYCHA says, they're full of it. Because NYCHA assessment is not true. Go through any borough you want. Anything that NYCHA does is terrible. So that's not true, their assessment. When Related, in essence, went with NYCHA to do the assessments in the buildings, they saw how bad it was.
So I'm going to go to Renee next. And just want to note that in the reports that NYCHA, Essence and Related did, they also stated the buildings are structurally sound. It's a choice. Let's go to Renee. Renee, why do you support the idea of doing preservation and renovation as opposed to demolition?
I support comprehensive
Please be quiet.
modernization under Section 9. The reason I don't believe that these buildings need to be demolished is because Essence and Related have been lying. Outright lying.
Guys, please, let her finish. Let her finish. Go ahead.
Okay, so in October 2022, that's when they started talking about the first build option. We didn't know that. What was Jamar saying? Oh, we're going to show you new renovations in January of the next year. We're going to show you all the tiles and all the things that's going to be done. January, nothing happened. February, literally, on our doorsteps, there's a packet saying you have a new opportunity for construction. He's been lying all along.
But,
let's be very real.
But again,
this has been a well-heeled scheme.
Right, but Renee, I'm going to ask you again. Why do you support preservation and renovation over demolition?
Okay, the buildings are structurally sound. We know it. Because we have basically asked, can we see the assessment made by Related and Essence? To this day, they have not shown it. If there's a problem, show it. But they are unable to do so. They are unwilling to do so.
Thank you. Next question. Next question. First for Miguel. Do you believe that there is a division between different groups of tenants, some who want demolition and some who don't? Oh, pass.
Okay.
No, I'm asking in terms of Fulton.
So the question that he asked.
Hold on.
Is there
Let Miguel speak.
It's okay, Joe. Is there a division?
Let Miguel speak.
There's a division because two reasons. Naysayers that don't live in Fulton, Elliot, Chelsea are spreading lies. They're threatening people. They're spreading nothing but lies. The same people from the development right across the street, I didn't hear them when those small businesses were being replaced for a building, a mixed income building. They didn't protect those small businesses like I have for decades.
So Miguel,
okay? And so the division was created by people, not only naysayers, but also people trying to make a political stand through this so they can run for politics in the future. It's not the tenants. They created the division.
So, again, do you believe in the Fulton campus there is a overwhelming majority in favor of the current plan? That's a yes or a no? Yes or no?
Yes, there is.
Yes, okay. All right, let's move on to Renee. Renee, let's talk about Elliot Chelsea. In Elliot Chelsea, do you believe there is a division of tenants who want demolition versus renovation?
This is how it goes.
Let her answer. Let her answer.
Comprehensive modernization.
Okay, ma'am, let her answer.
Section 9.
You got to let her answer. You have to let her answer. You may choose to shut her down. You're not going to shut her down. She's going to answer.
I'm not lying. I haven't been in your home.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead. Kate, ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am? Okay, Renee, please answer.
The question again?
Yes, the question is, do you believe is the majority of NYCHA tenants at Elliot Chelsea, do you believe they're in favor of demolition, new construction, or preservation?
You'd have to define new construction because that word has been used so badly.
Demolition of all buildings and building new buildings is new construction.
No. People want comprehensive modernization. They do not want demolition. There's no reason to have that. Our buildings are structurally sound.
Okay, all right. A question for Miguel. there has been a lot of discussion over many months about the survey that was done back in '23 and the question of would it represent it or not. If today, in order to get consensus around this plan, would you support just another real vote by a third party conducted via NYCHA on demolition or new construction or preservation?
No, I wouldn't, because the survey was done fair and square, and the residents chose what they wanted.
Thank you very much for that question. Renee, if there was a request to do a third-party vote, as has been done in other NYCHA campuses in other parts of the city, would you support that?
That is up to the residents. It's not me to say so.
No, I'm saying, would you support the request for a vote?
That is in the hands of the residents.
Okay.
This is how we got to this place. One person, a bunch of people deciding for everyone else. This is what has done. This is what has put our lives on the line.
Okay. Question for Miguel. Miguel, is there any reason that both campuses should be treated the same with the same plan, or could there be different treatments?
Of course, this should be treated the same, because we are both going through the same issue. As a young woman keeps saying, asbestos, lead, everything's in this department that has to be removed, so that's why these buildings need to be demolished.
Thank you. For Renee. As we move ahead in a public process, whatever that may be, or do you believe that the campuses should be treated the same, or there should be a difference depending upon the desires of the residents?
First of all, Fulton Houses and Elliot Chelsea, yes, are different campuses. So we're going to be honest about that. But at the same time, we have been thrown into this mess. So we have a real problem. The attitude is we're going to demolish and rebuild. You're not. You should not. It never should have been done, or either campuses. And I do mean either campus. We don't know. We have a petition of 955, and everyone keeps trying to find their way around it. They ignore it. The people have spoken. I don't understand why we keep playing this game. They've spoken. 955 said no to demolition. 550.
I want to move on. One last question for Miguel first. Nowhere else in the city of New York is there a complete demolition proposed of NYCHA campuses. In fact, it's the opposite. The RadPack project has done 13,000 apartments, either in construction or already completed. What makes this location different, that this should be demolished?
This location makes it different.
Quiet, please. Let him answer the question.
Because we get an opportunity that's never been done in New York State. And we need to take advantage of it, because I visited those rehab buildings. And I could bring TA presidents and residents here who tell you they regret going rehab, and they wish that they had the opportunity to have demolition like we're being given.
Thank you, Miguel. Guys, same question for Renee. Why is this proposed here for the first time a complete campus demolition as opposed to renovation as has been done through RadPack throughout the city?
Signs say it. It's a land grab. This is about the market value of Chelsea. This is what all this is. It drives everything in this. Everyone thinks they need to make money off these developments. We're not. We are not chattel. We are people. They have said repeatedly it would cost less to demolish.
You must be quiet.
We find out that is not true. So it's about money. This is what we are. We are chattel.
Guys, everybody, thank these two people for taking some questions. It's not easy to do this, and they did it pretty good. Thank you so much.
No demolition.
Yes, demolition. Tear them down. Stop waiting.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. folks, we've heard you. You all said that you wanted to ask questions. We have a stack of questions we've received, so we're going to invite our electeds and their representatives back up. And we will invite Greg Morris, our chair of Chelsea Land Use, who has been diligently grouping and studying your questions, including one just coming in under the bell. And we will do everything to get to as many questions as possible tonight with your help. Additionally, I want to say, if you still need note cards because you want to write a question, we'll pass them out. We'll get some volunteers to do that. Additionally, if we do not get to every question, our plan is to actually compile them and submit them to all of our elected officials, including those who are not here this evening, to get their responses. So those questions will live on, even if they're not addressed, given our time constraints this evening. I'll ask our volunteers, CB4 volunteers, there's someone in the middle here who has a question, if someone can attend to her. Meanwhile, Greg, come on up. We're doing questions from the note cards only. If anyone needs a note card, raise your hand and we'll get you one.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Morris, and I'm the chair of the Chelsea Land Use Committee. I have in my left hand probably 60 questions. There was an additional 60 online. We're not going to get to all of them now. So what I'm going to try to do is get to some questions you haven't maybe heard yet. And if they are questions you've heard, perhaps you can elaborate, because folks have been asking consistently some of these questions. Some, by the way, were statements that led to questions. And here's the first one. This is from Lyra. Change is inevitable, and it can flood in and destroy culture and community. What programs are in place to ensure the value of diversity, culture, and vision that resides in the NYCHA community is protected? So in other words, we debate tonight and we call into question how this is going to happen and what is going to happen. How do we ensure, regardless, that culture is protected in NYCHA?
Test.
So to me, that's why there must be zero displacement. Zero displacement. So the entire community is kept intact. Bedrock principle, unnegotiable as part of this process.
Can you hear me? I believe the question was, how will we ensure diversity and the community stays together?
That's correct.
Well, all the residents will be moved together. There has been this debate on whether or not we want to integrate them with the mixed income use, which we're going to discuss during the ULURP process. But as of now, everyone will stay in the NYCHA community. You'll just be in a new building.
I would just like to add, as part of this process, there are some opportunities that could help even give more opportunities for the residents. For example, all the buildings will roof decks. All the buildings will have common roof decks. There could be urban farming at NYCHA, Elliot, Chelsea, and Fulton houses. A few years ago, we had a nonprofit come to NYCHA, both Fulton and Elliot, Chelsea, because we wanted to set up community gardens. There's nowhere currently where you could do it. They surveyed the whole place because it requires sun all day. A rooftop deck, street level retail. There's many opportunities in addition to the new community spaces in every building.
Last thought.
I would just add, we are working with Attorney General Tish James. The right of return will be ironclad. So the diversity that is there today, you will have that diversity when people have the right to return.
I think the question specifically was related to how it was that your offices would ensure that. In other words, it is true that at this time we could say everything is ironclad, but we're not yet in a position where we know, or this community knows, how your offices and what programs and activities are going to be in place to ensure that ironclad expectation.
What I mean by ironclad is they will be a legal document that you will sign with the landlord NYCHA that you have the right to return. It is that is why Tish James is involved. So.
Also, this is very important. This is a very important thing for everyone to know, is that every year around New York City, NYCHA temporarily relocates thousands of units of thousands of people out of their units to also elsewhere on their campus. And there are many who are temporarily housed in totally different campuses. I'm on the Public Housing Committee where we discuss this, and they have over many years used the documents that ensure that right of return.
We're gonna make sure we get a mic on answer. There it is. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And let's just go one at a time here for the sake of speed. When we get a specific question from this particular audience that says, what exactly, there you go. Yeah, take the good mic. There you go. We have a question, more than one, from folks tonight, which was, what exactly is the plan? So I think this might be an Eric, council member, maybe you want to lead this one off. But I think there's something here about how it is that you are able to articulate and your office is able to articulate the steps and expectations that are in place.
This is a document that is new this month, which everyone here needs to, it's on the NYCHA's website, and we need to make sure that everyone who attended today gets emailed this document, but it is the Fulton, Elliot, Chelsea relocation plan. And in it, it goes into great detail about the relocation plan with unit counts, sequencing, moving costs, relocation agreements. It's a voluminous document that we need to make sure that every resident gets this and has the opportunity. And here's another thing I want to say. Anyone who has questions that aren't being answered should email me. And we will ensure that you get your question answered. And so we have to, I want everyone to know that.
Specifically, the types of questions that folks were asking related to what the plan is something like this. And this is a question that I guess, council member, you would need to figure out how to answer. Someone said, I have 2 bedrooms. Will I be able to keep 2 bedrooms in my new apartment?
If their household size matches 2 bedrooms. If you are an individual with 2 bedrooms, you will likely need to have a 1-bedroom. And that's because, and by the way, that's under any scenario. That's even under a renovation scenario. The apartments will be right-sized because we have families that are doubled up, tripled up, quadrupled up. And then we have some individuals with many bedrooms, and that's not fair. We have to make sure that these families get the bedrooms that they need.
The logical follow-up question to that might be, how is it that I determine what my new apartment looks like? Who makes that decision?
So there is currently surveying the residents about their apartment. There's a work, yes. So within the complexes, there are resident groups who have been put together, and in these materials that have been distributed to residents, they ask, if you want to be part of one of these working groups, sign up. And one of the working groups relates to the design and the layouts of the apartments. And as part of the process, when it does get close to the time for people to move in their new homes, they'll have the opportunity to say where they prefer to be.
Perhaps, Assembly Member, you want to jump in on this one? There was a specific question about Fulton selling off a parking lot to build a building, and where does that money go? So the specific question here is about, I think, as it relates to pieces of this development being sold off, how are you going to ensure that that money comes back into NYCHA?
The council member has a better answer than I do.
So what this question...
Again, the reason I teed it up for you, Assembly Member, is because NYCHA is a state-related entity.
Well,
Go ahead.
this goes back to Corey Johnson days, so I can answer this. So at Fulton Houses on 20th Street, there on 19th Street, there is a new building was built on a parking lot at the Fulton Houses campus. That is a 100% affordable housing building. And the plus side of building 100% affordable housing on that parking lot is that it provided homes for hundreds of New Yorkers who didn't have them before, and it has no market rate units. It's 100% affordable. The downside is the residents of Fulton got nothing out of that. No income to help fix up the complexes. So when you talk about how to use things like parking lots, it's a real discussion to have. Do you do the 100% affordable, or do you consider a mixed income that will bring income into the complex? It's a complicated decision, but that's what happened both at Fulton Houses and at Elliot Chelsea on 26th Street and 9th Avenue. That also 100% affordable housing, nothing for the NYCHA tenants.
Let's pivot in a slightly different direction and let's talk about safety. This project has a number of years of construction if it goes forward. There are a number of questions about how that's going to affect seniors, families, and kids. What are electeds doing to ensure the safety of students and staff at PS 33 during 16 years of construction? And will there be a new school?
I'll take that. So I know I have trusted my colleagues in the Attorney General's office and legal aid. We're going to try to, every effort we can, along with Community Board 4, that has amazing leaders who will keep us accountable to ensure the mitigation efforts are least disruptive to PS 33. But if we did rehabilitation and not rebuilding, the disruption would be far worse. You would have people have to move in and move out. Anyone who's ever seen work done on 20, 30, 40-year-old buildings would be much more disruptive. No one is being moved, 94% of residents, until the new apartments are up and ready. No market rate, no affordable housing until all the NYCHA residents are moved into their new homes, 94% of them. We did argue about why the 6%, and their rationale back was where the building was in order to stage the rest of the buildings. But we're going to fight to improve the plan, and I hope a lot of residents join us, and I know they will. Many have emailed and called our offices to improve the plan, because it's not a perfect plan, but it's a good plan.
Sorry to hog the mic like this. So PS 33 is a top priority of ours to ensure that PS 33 throughout this process is front and center with their concerns being addressed. It's important to note that the first new building to be constructed will not be behind PS 33, it'll be down the block. But one of the building right behind PS 33 will be one of the last buildings, so that'll be many years away. What we are demanding is that the buildings be built not just with the legal safety requirements for everything involving dust, noise, etc., but that they go above and beyond, which they have committed to doing. We are going to be working with them to ensure that all these factors are mitigated, and that when it comes to PS 33, they've committed to regular meetings to keep PS 33 in the loop, because PS 33 stands to benefit immensely from this when the students who go there have the best housing in New York.
I would also add that we're going to make sure that as the work, that the air and safety is monitored. So there'll be regular meetings on that. That is a very, very important to all of the elected officials. So
I think if I may just build on this for a second, while it is understandable and appreciated that mitigation efforts might be made, there needs to be a certain amount of accountability to ensure that this happens over time. You understand that, right? And while I did ask, there was a question about whether a new school would be built. And the reality is, when we look closely at the FEIS, when we look at the statement, it isn't quite a plan in place for what it would look like to continue to grow this community. So I just note this to say, while I think it is understood to start from the perspective of we want to make sure that the highest quality and assurance of safety is in place, someone is going to have to be responsible for that on a daily, hourly basis to ensure that the community is safe. And I think that is true for PS 33 as it is for every other part of this community. Speaking of this community, will the community center and early childhood center be rebuilt? What does the community do in the meantime?
The plan will include a new early childhood center, and it'll actually be adding a second early childhood center, and there will be no interruption because the young people won't be moved until the new one is ready.
Hold on, let's hear the rest of this. Go ahead.
You want me to say it?
Go ahead.
I would also add that Hudson Guild has come out in support of the plan, and so they support the plan and they support the development.
I appreciate the acknowledgement of Hudson Guild. At the same time, I'm not sure if your awareness of what the agreement is in terms of what Hudson Guild is going to benefit from as this project unfolds. So while there may be benefits, I'm not sure what those benefits are.
So Hudson Guild is going to be getting a new community center. Who has been to a meeting at the Hudson Guild Elliot Center that did not have air conditioning? This community center that Hudson Guild is getting is going to be a state-of-the-art community center, and they're also going to be getting more square footage and more space at both campuses. Hudson Guild, in the budget every year, they are the #1 recipient in funds from our office. They are a top priority of mine, and we are going to ensure that Hudson Guild gets an incredible new community center out of this.
Given that we just have another, I think, 5 minutes on the clock, 4 minutes on the clock, I think it's important for us to seek an answer to this question. I think it's important for us to seek to answer this question. And council member, you want to lead this off. You want to explain what ULURP is? and how it's related to this project.
So there's been a lot of alphabet soup with different acronyms, and ULURP is the Universal Land Use Procedure, that when you change zoning in New York, you go to the city and say, I want to be allowed to build taller than I can, wider than I can, differently than I can, but you got to get permission. So it's kind of like going to the town zoning board and getting permission, but in New York City, it's a lengthy process that it goes through the city council, the borough president, the city planning commission, and the city council, the community board.
2 minutes, council member.
And that's essentially what ULURP.
And how will that be addressed in this, related to this project, in terms of timing or planning?
So they're anticipating beginning the ULURP, certifying, as they call it, probably near the beginning of next year. And but the project won't have to wait for that whole multi-year thing to happen, because the first building in each campus that's going to be built is being built as of right. So there will be one new building in each campus that's being built as of right. That should be done within the next 4 years.
1 minute on the clock. Last question. I'll just put it out there in this way. Specific to jobs and job accessibility to residents, if there is construction happening in this development, how will you ensure that residents have access to those jobs?
So
I'm going to ask that we just have one last minute for a question about jobs. It's come up from a number of folks.
So in these materials, there is information about employment opportunities as part of this project and beyond. That's one reason why we want to make sure that they are distributed to everybody.
Thank you very much for the time. I do think we need to close all of these questions that have been asked that we have not gotten to. You can hold us accountable for seeking answers from our elected officials to get answers to those questions.
Thank you, Brent. Nice job. Thank you. Thank you. First, there is a missing iPhone. We have found an iPhone. So if you are missing your iPhone. Second, we will, if you signed up, we heard that all of the electeds encourage people to be in touch with them directly. If you want to, before Eric walking off the stage, just share your email address. Eric. I'm asking if you'd share your email address that you want people to write to you at.
So if anyone did not get their question answered tonight, or if you have any other questions, please email me at district3@council.nyc.gov. You could also just Google my name and the website will pop up. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
and you can also email our office. It's SimoneT@NewYorkAssembly.gov. When you Google Tony Simone, our phone number comes up.
Thank you. We know tonight was not perfect, but we appreciate you all coming out. We know that you are passionate about this community and about NYCHA, and we thank you for being here. Stay tuned.